Hello, welcome to another video. Today I am bringing you my May wrap-up. I really had to think about what month it was just then, but it's my May wrap-up. It's currently the 1st of June. Really freaking hot. Like, it hasn't been this hot in I don't know how long. I am sweating, but I'm doing this anyway because it's first month and that means I need to wrap up last month and TBR for the next, but you'll see that in a separate video. But yeah, May reading did not go to plan for me at all. It turns out I ended up being really busy and really stressed. So if you've seen any of my reading vlogs, you will know that I was really busy and really stressed and sucked at reading this month because life completely got in the way. But I did read some things. So I've got 4 books that I finished and 1 that I DNF'd, and in terms of quality this month, it wasn't fabulous. I didn't have any 5-star reads this month, and this year for 5-star reads I've been doing really well, but just this month I didn't. I did have 1 4-star, 2 3 stars, 1 2-star, and then the DNF that I'm not rating. So yeah, I guess I'll just get started. I'm gonna go through these in the order that I read them, because that seems to make sense. So let's crack it off, shall we? The first book that I read in the month of May was Fire and Heist by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the one that I gave 2 stars. It took me far too long to read a book that's this small. It's presented as these people who are were-dragons or wyverns or whatever, people that can morph into dragons, and are also thieves, because dragons really like gold and they have to, like, gather their hoard and execute these heists. Let me just read you the blurb. Dad always says that executing a heist is like a chess game. You plan for every contingency, and you have backup plans. Stopping a heist, though, is entirely different. You have to improvise. I hate improv. That... I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to explain. Like, the voice, the character voice there sounds pretty funny, and I suppose it was. This is told from the main character's perspective. What's her name? Sky. Sky is her name. It's told from Sky's perspective. Sky was an interesting character. She had a bit of sass, she had a bit of an attitude, she was likeable to a certain extent, but then also unlikable as well at the same time, so conflicting feelings on her. In terms of the plot, I don't think that blurb accurately presents what this book is about at all. I don't want to spoil it, in case, by telling you what that blurb does reference, but I don't think that accurately represents this book. I was confused for most of it. It had kind of that fun... It was a bit fun. It was very non-committal and easy reading, but because it wasn't holding my interest, it took me far too long to read, if that makes any sense. And I just didn't merge with this at all. I wasn't that into it. The plot just didn't do it for me, and honestly none of the other characters did. It's a bit of like a contemporary mushed with a fantasy, and the contemporary aspects of this are pretty dominant, and didn't like it. Like, you'll know how I feel about romance. Romance in books is not my thing, especially if it's really frickin' cheesy, which this really was. Like, typical high school romance, like, oh, he broke my heart, but I still love him and I'm still pining over him. Like, shut up. Just shut up. I'm not into that. It had some things going for it, like, I suppose some of the dragon aspects were cool, and as I said, the tone of voice that this is told in is kind of sassy and attitudey, and I liked that, but that is about it. My speaker keeps beeping. Sorry if you can hear that. I don't know why it's doing that. Like, if it could shut up, that would be great. But anyway, yeah, 2 stars for this. If you like contemporary and you want like a contemporary mushed with a fantasy, then this could potentially be very much up your street, but it was way too contemporary-esque for me. Yeah, just the stakes were not high enough. So yeah, 2 stars for that one from me. I then moved on to potentially one of the longest standing books on my TBR. I have owned this for years and not read it, and that is Ice Like Fire by Sarah Rush. This is the sequel to Snow Like Ashes that I read way back when. It was one of the first books I read on my channel, and I think I gave the first one 4 stars, but that was like 4 years ago now? How long have I been doing this? 3 years? Something. It was a while back. And I had not got to the sequel, mainly because one thing that I heard when I read Snow Like Ashes, someone said, oh, the second one is nowhere near as good, it's really slow. And that stuck with me, and I was like, well, I don't want to read the sequel then, I'll just stick to having read the first one, and that can sit on my shelf for years. And it did. But Jess pushed me to buddy read it. Buddy reading things with Jess is great. It really encourages me to read things that I potentially may not get to on my shelves. And I think it works pretty well for both of us in that respect. But anyway, finally got through to this one. So Snow Like Ashes follows Mayra and Mather, who are like survivors from the fall of the Winter Kingdom, which was overtaken by the Spring Kingdom. So you've got the Season Kingdoms, and you've also got the Rhythm Kingdoms as well. Spring overtook Winter, and they are like the few survivors from that, and they're trying to reclaim their kingdom, I suppose. This follows on from what happens in the first one, so I can't really tell you what happens in this one for risk of spoiling the first one. But it wasn't terrible. I gave it 3 stars. It was definitely predictable. There were parts of it that I liked. This book feels like it's very typical of its time, which you need to consider. When was this published? 2015, I think? Yeah, 2015 this was published, so like 4 years ago. So yeah, it must have been on my shelf for about that long. It's very generic. It feels like things you will have potentially read before. Nothing really unique. However, there was one aspect of this that I liked. It was like a hunt for something specific, and I liked like the little clues and the journey to find the things that they were looking for. It definitely kept my interest more than the previous book did, at least. And I was intrigued to know where it was going and what was happening next, so points for that, because it held my interest, and that was apparently difficult to do this month. But yeah, 3 stars. Nothing amazingly unique, nothing too original, but fun, fantasy, you know, kick-ass lady, main character, saving a kingdom. It was very average. Moving on to the next book that I read in May, that was a buddy read with Becca from Becca and the Books, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, the first book in the Grisha trilogy. We are doing a buddy read of the whole lot of them. I own all of them and had never read any of them because I'm terrible at getting to my owned books. But we read this month, and I didn't hate it. I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I did give it 3 stars, but because of all of the negative attention I had seen this receiving, like people saying it's just shit, I was expecting it to be like proper shit, and it wasn't. It was just average. It, again, didn't feel too unique or original. It felt very much like a fantasy of its time. I think this was like 2013? 2012? 2012, this one, so even earlier than Ice Like Fire. But yeah, I didn't hate it. You know, girl finds out she has powers she didn't know she had and has to save the world. It wasn't awful. However, I did like the magic in this. That felt a bit more original. I liked the power that Alina had. If you're not familiar with this story, this is about Alina, who was an orphan and joined the army and then found out that she had a power that she didn't know she had, and ends up joining the like Grisha school where they train their powers or whatever. I can't quite remember what that was called. Where she has to like hone her power and she meets the Darkling and blah blah, love triangle, blah blah blah. You know, that sort of jazz. But this was so easy to read, like the writing style just clicked. I really liked that. But yeah, I just didn't hate it. And I'm astounded that I didn't hate it because I thought I was going to hate it. But I didn't. Whereas with Ice Like Fire, I thought I was going to like it, and then it ended up being average. So my attitude towards that is a bit more negative. Whereas with this one, I thought I was gonna hate it and ended up not hating it, so I feel really positively about it. And I'm actually looking forward to reading the next book, which I didn't think I would be too much. I thought it would be another case of like having a buddy read to force me to do these things, but I didn't hate it. And I'm looking forward to the next one. There was one character in this, Mal, who didn't do it for me. He seemed to just pop up wherever it was convenient for the plot with like no reason for him to be there. Like, dude, where did you come from? How are you here? Yeah. So that annoyed me a bit, but otherwise, I didn't hate it. So yeah, 3 stars for Shadow and Bone. Decent start to getting into Leigh Bardugo for me, because I've never read any of her books. But I have now, so yay! And then the last and best book of the month for me was In an Absent Dream by Shauna Maguire. This is the 4th book in the Wayward Children series of little novellas. This follows Lundy's story, and I quite liked this. It didn't blow me away as much as the first one did and the second one, but it was still pretty solid. I gave this one 4 stars. It's the highest rated book this month, so yay for that. But yeah, I really like this. The writing style is really immersive and just beautifully done. However, the thing that I didn't get with this is I didn't get the logic. It's supposed to be a logic world, and for a logic world, it just felt very confusing to me. Maybe I'm not a logical person and that's why, but I just didn't mesh with the world in this one. I didn't get it. I didn't feel as connected as I have with the other ones, and it didn't like blow me away as much. But that does not detract from the fact that this is a beautifully written book with a wonderful story and great characters. The writing is what sells these, I think, mostly. Actually, no, the magic as well. It's just good. The whole lot of them are just really good. Just the first one absolutely blew my mind, and the others haven't held that standard, in my opinion. But I think it's because the first one just took me by surprise so much, whereas now I kind of know what to expect a bit more. There's less of a shock factor, but I really, really enjoyed this, and if you haven't read the Wayward Children series, I strongly suggest you do. They are beautifully written and just so well constructed. For small books like this, it's astonishing how much character development and world building Shauna Maguire can squeeze into like 200 pages. Her ability to write a compelling story blows my mind. So yeah, great. And then lastly, I'm just going to touch on the DNF. This is actually the 2nd time I've DNF'd this book, and that is Gemina by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I'm sorry, like I'm so deeply sorry for not liking this. Everyone loves this series. I've tried twice now. I got 185 pages in. I really don't care, and I wish I did. I loved Illuminae a lot. Illuminae was a 5-star read for me. Gemina, I just can't get through it. I can't get into it. I can't do it. I've tried it twice, and I just don't know if there's any point in trying it again. Like, how many times can you give a book another chance and see if you get any further? I just don't know, but I'm not getting any further. The characters, I just don't care about. So in the first one, you've got Katie and Ezra, and I really liked their characters. Katie, I thought, was awesome. I loved her. In this, you follow Hannah and Nick, and I think Hannah is insufferable, and Nick is just slimy. Slimy? Is that the word I mean? I don't know. We'll go with that. The only character I'm slightly interested in is Ella, and she's not one of the main ones, so no, thanks. I'm not into this one, and I'm sorry. I do want to know what happens, I just can't sit through it. Maybe if it was a movie, I would be into it, but I can't read it again. Yep, I'm gonna stop talking about that now. I apologise. So yeah, that was my May reading. It was not fantastic, but we'll take it. We'll take it. I had one pretty good book and one that shocked me in the best possible way. So it's a month that had its ups and downs, but no 5 stars. Meh. Yeah, that's that. I hope you had a good reading month yourself. I absolutely failed the Sailor Moonathon. Like, I flushed that down the toilet early in the month, really, didn't I? I sucked. In June, there is the Ghibliathon happening, so hopefully my June reading will be better because I've got a readathon that I'm actually co-hosting. Woo! But yeah, that's that for this month. Fingers crossed for June. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up, chat to me down below. If you've read any of these books and want to talk to me about them, then please do that down below as well. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!